Hey guys, Lance Lombard here with 3D For Me TV. Welcome to our first installment of a filament test where we will be looking at this nice PLA filament from ORD Solutions. They were nice enough to give me a bit of sample to test for our first trial runs where we printed these nifty little shapes. You can see that they provided us three primary colors, cyan, magenta, and yellow. And we generated 15 different colors in these particular shapes. These came out pretty nifty, I think. Would like to, I asked them for a little bit more filament so we could print some larger shapes. So what we're going to do is we're going to load these filaments up on our diamond extruder, which I have loaded onto our Folgertech FT5 printer. And we're going to print a multicolor vase in 16 different colors. Now the neat thing about this ORD Solutions PLA is that it's designed to mix very well straight out of this 3-to-1 diamond extruder. So that's kind of the neat feature we're going to be testing out today, and I'll be back more later. Hey, welcome back. I've been at this a few days now working with this material from ORD Solutions. As you can see, I have a few products here that are in various stages of completeness, I guess you could say. I learned a lot of things as I worked with this material as far as how different wall thicknesses and slower extrusion speeds, different temperatures held up a little bit better than others as I went through the process. You can see this first vase here didn't hold up very well at all. This was printed with about 0.48 millimeters for the nozzle and extruded at about 4.48 millimeters. Same thing with this particular vase here. This one was actually printed a little bit hotter. This one was printed at 200 degrees Celsius. I thought I'd try and test out a little bit hotter temperature. We went to 210 on that. It didn't hold up very well at all. These are both with 0.48 millimeter wall thickness. So I went a little bit thicker with the wall thickness. I went up to 0.6 and printed at 200 degrees Celsius and at about 100% of my typical print speed, which I believe is about 50 millimeters per second. So I went to a 0.6 millimeter wall thickness with this particular model, and you can see held up a little bit better. There are some holes, and it took a little bit of super glue to hold these pieces together. But by the next iteration of this particular vase, I had gone about to 80% of my print speed, and by that time things were starting to stick together very well. There was a few little transitional spots where I had some issues between pink and orange and yellow and sort of this light green, and that was primarily because we went from a solid filament to a mixed filament. So for whatever reason, I don't know whether it's a high viscosity issue, but there's a little bit of a tricky part when you go from a solid color to a mixed color. They don't want to stick very well. But you can see we also printed some solid pyramids. Those came out pretty nice. There's a little bit of difference in color between the different sides. You can see that's sort of pinkish on one side and a little bit yellowish on the other. So some of these pyramids blended a little bit better than others. There are some other sort of orange colors that was a little bit more consistent throughout the part. Some blues. One of the things that I did have an issue with on these triangles or these pyramids was that I ran out of filament sort of in halfway in between, and I had to switch them out. So that may have had something to do with the color mixing issues. Anyway, I'll show you what's going on in the printer now. It's pretty interesting. I have an actual blending script running that transitions the colors very slowly. We'll take a look at that in a second. This is the ORD Solutions filament printing with this transitional script that I ran, and you can see there's some pretty neat detail in here, some very, very vibrant colors. The transitions between the colors are pretty perfect, just because we have about a 1% change in the mixing for each layer, as opposed to the other vases that we saw earlier, which were abrupt changes between tool settings. This is going to be a pretty neat vase. There's some really neat color patterns and transitions in here. And so far so good. This is a pretty awesome model, and really characteristic of the capabilities of this particular filament. So I think there's a lot of good possibilities for some more interesting products and models to come, and look forward to working with this material in the future. Thanks for joining me.